So I have added some more explanation. So let's look at your vapor dome saturation pressure, saturation temperature, and basically we are referring to your PV and PT plots. Okay, so if you look at this PT plot, you can see that for this is your saturation curve, right? This is the boundary between liquid and vapor. Okay, so for this boundary, for a given condition, or for a given pressure and temperature, del P by del T is constant. Okay, it is not dependent on volume of that system, specific volume. Okay, which is also confirmed by this. If you look at this plot, so during the phase change process, your del P by del T becomes constant. It is not affected by the volume, right? So I can say that P saturation is a function of T sat. Okay, so when I say that at 1 atmosphere, the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. So I'm just referring that P sat is 1 atmosphere. For 1 atmosphere, if I know that is 100 degrees Celsius, then that is the function of, basically pressure is the function of temperature. I did not mention that what is the specific volume of that water. Okay, and hence I can say that saturation pressure is not a function of specific volume of that system. So since we have seen that del P is a function of P is a function of T only and not of V, so I can write del P by del T as dP by dt. Okay, for this is just be careful. This is specifically for the phase change process. When we are talking about phase change curve like this. So to give you clearer idea, so if you look at this 3D plot or PVT surface, so this is where this is the vapor dome. Okay, so we are talking about this curve. So for this curve, your dP by dt remains constant, even whatever volume we have. So if you look from this side, if you take so if you take this perspective, you look at from this side. So this is your slope. Okay, that remains constant. It doesn't. It basically sits on this. So it doesn't matter whatever volume you have, but the slope depends on temperature. Pressure depends on temperature. That's all. Okay, so you can look at different substances which contracts on freezing or expands on freezing. All the cases you will see that this slope, this does not depend on volume. This is what we have discussed here. Okay, so based on that, I can say that this is a more closer view. This is what we are talking about, right? This slope. Okay, this should be a tangent and not drawn very carefully. So this is a tangent, or just you get the slope of that curve. Okay, now, so what we have seen is that this is from Maxwell's third relation. Okay, so from Maxwell's third relation, we have this. Now, from previous few slides, we have seen that, okay, del P can be written as, del P by del T can be written as dP by dt. So instead of writing in partial derivatives, I am writing in full derivative. Okay, or if I relate this to Maxwell's third relation, so instead of del P by del T, this I can write del S by del V. Okay, so del S by del V is equal to dP by dt at saturation, and these are true for phase change process when you are talking about liquid and vapor equilibrium. Okay, now if I integrate it, okay, if I take del V that side and integrate, what I will get? I will get delta S. Okay, as let us integrate from liquid to vapor, and delta V. So if V goes to RHS, integrate V, it will become So basically I'm integrating, let us say we have delta V or dV. dV I'm integrating between liquid to F is for liquid and G is for gas or vapor. So we are integrating between vapor to gas. If you integrate it, it will become Vg minus Vf. Fine? People are here or not? Is this
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, what I can say is, what is, can you identify this, what we have seen in the table, Sg minus Sf is, can I write this as Sfg? This is how your entries in the table are given, right? And Vfg can be written for Vg minus Vf. So in the tables, what we have discussed, we have one column for Vg, one column for Vf, and there is one more column for Vfg. Since for many of our calculations, we actually require the difference between these two. So this is given as a separate column, and this is called VFG. Okay, so go back to the tables, and you can check once you can confirm that. Anyway, so now instead of writing this, I can write SFG and I can write VFG. So this relation becomes dP by dt saturation is equal to SFG divided by this. Fine. So let us keep it aside. Now we'll look at another relation. So dH is equal to TdS plus VdP. This is what we have previously discussed. This is how we define enthalpy. And for constant pressure, okay, if pressure is constant, this term will be 0. So it will be TdS only. If you integrate, dH is equal to TdS with what is F and G? Just now I have told
Liquid and
F
gas.
stands for. Okay, so we are going from liquid to vapor. That is the symbol shown in integration. So if you do that, again I will get something like H. So Hg minus Hf. So let us write Hfg. And TdS, if you integrate between these limits, it becomes Sfg. So this is what we had from here, right? dP by dt sat and is equal to Sfg by Vfg. And here we have found that Sfg can be written as H divided by T, right? So if I equate, if I relate these two, I can write dP by dt, this is the LHS of this, is equal to, instead of S, I am writing H by T. H by T, and this V is coming from here. Is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
So this is called, yes.
sir, can you please explain how the second equation has come? Dou P by dou T at constant volume is equals to dP by dt at saturation.
Okay, so this equation you are asking about, this is
No,
coming
no.
from here.
सर ये जो पहली वाली है मतलब फर्स्ट मतलब ये जो डी
This
डाउ
one.
आशा ऊपर ऊपर थोड़ा डाउ पी बाई डाउ
This,
टी एट कांस्टेंट वॉल्यूम एट इक्वल्स टू डीपी बाई डीटी एट सैचुरेशन.
okay, that is what I was explaining. Okay, let me go back. So basically, what I am saying is that if you, okay, just focus on this plot. So what you see here is that if I, let us say, if I in a PV plot, okay, if I fix the temperature, okay, if I fix the temperature in a PV plot, pressure also becomes constant, right? So this is for T1, this is for T2. Pressure is constant here inside the vapor dome.
Yes
Do you
sir.
agree? Similarly, if you
Yes.
look at TP plot, TV plot, sorry, temperature and volume plot, then you will see again. I don't have it here. Okay, if you look at temperature and volume plot, okay, it is not here. TP plot is there. Even so, I can draw it here. Okay, so let us say instead of we have temperature and this is, let's say, volume. So even for that plot, if suppose I fix the pressure, okay, then temperature becomes constant. If you recall, we have discussed this previously, right? So if you fix, either you fix the temperature or you fix the pressure, other one becomes constant. So here we are focusing on pressure. Basically, we are interested in dP by dt. So what I can say from this discussion is that pressure is a function of saturation pressure. So basically, I am limiting myself to pressure for a phase change process. Okay, so I am talking about something starting from here, from the saturated liquid to saturated vapor, and in this dotted line. So this is
Yes,
the region I'm talking about. So I say that for this phase change process or for this length, I can say that saturation pressure is basically a function of temperature. It is not a
yes,
function of volume,
yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir. I understand, sir. Thank you, sir.
Fine. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me go back to that slide then. So this is what we have already found, and this is what we got from this TDS relation. So if I combine these two, we'll get this is called Clapeyron relation. Okay, so this is called Clapeyron relation, and here we have written Fg is for gas and vapor. We can write for any phase change process. Let us say there are two phases, 1 and 2. So just the general form of this equation. So instead of writing F and G, I can write 1 and 2. Okay, we are talking about two phases. That's what this plot says. Okay, so this is Clapeyron. Now, this is what we have. If you go to very low pressures, so what you will see is that the specific volume for a gas is much higher than specific volume occupied by a liquid. So if you write VFG for that, so VFG is basically difference between VG and VF. Okay, so since VG is very large, this becomes, let us say, negligible. So I can say VFG is equal to VG. It is not, let us say this is almost negligible or zero. So VFG will become VG. So, and VG is, let us say that this is a ideal gas. So for ideal gas, I can write V is equal to RT by P. Okay. So if I substitute this whatever we have got into this, so I can say dP by dt sat is equal to, now instead of VFG, I will write VG, and instead of VG, I will write RT by P. Okay, so dP by dt sat, which is the LHS of this. Now for LHS, HFG will be there, T will be there. Now instead of VFG, I write RT by P. So RT will go in denominator. We had already one T there, so it will become RT square, and P will go on the top numerator. So dP by dt is equal to this. Okay. Now let us do some rearrangement. So let us say dP and P will take LHS. So it becomes dP by P, and dt will come this side. So it becomes dt by T square, and the remaining terms are HFG and R. So these are written here. Okay. Now for small temperature intervals, okay, basically I want to integrate this. So let us assume that HFG remains constant for small changes. So if we integrate this dP by P, if you integrate that, it will become log of P2 by P1. So we are integrating between state 1 and state 2, which can be, because I am assuming this to be constant, so I am taking it out of integration. So we integrate this. We are integrating this from 1 to 2, and we are integrating this from 1 to 2. So that will give you HFG by R 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2. Okay. This is called Clausius-Clapeyron relation. and this is used to determine variation of saturation pressure with temperature. So if your saturation pressure varies, then how to find it? This is a actually very important relation for phase change processes. Okay, so we'll see some examples where this will be used. Now let us yes.
सर
Yes,
उसका सर इसका मतलब क्या है? ये जो इक्वेशन मतलब सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर पे हो रहा है, तो सर टेम्परेचर तो कांस्टेंट होना चाहिए ना, मतलब ऐसा कुछ है क्या मतलब?
Okay, so basically, that's a good question.
सर प्रेशर बदलने से टेम्परेचर पे
Yes.
क्या फर्क पड़ेगा सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर पे, वो उसका रिलेशन?
Correct. So let's go back to this. So if you look at this plot, okay, so for this temperature we have this pressure, for this T2 we have this pressure. Okay, so if you know
yes sir.
that, then you can transfer here using that relation.
Thank you sir.
Fine. Okay. So moving on. So now let us talk about Joule-Thomson coefficient. Someone asked some question when we're talking about refrigeration. So hopefully now you will get what you have asked for. Okay, throttling. So throttling, as we have already seen, basically we are passing the fluid through, let us say, constricted passage. Okay, so basically what happens is your pressure decreases, and the important aspect of throttling is that enthalpy remains constant. And what about temperature? Temperature may increase, decrease, or remain constant. Now, how that happens, that we'll see now. By the way, someone had some doubt, right, when we were talking about refrigeration system about throttling? Is he present today? Okay. Anyway, so that's why that time I told you to hold on for that. So today we'll explain whatever doubt he had. Anyway, so moving on. Now, if I want to show you in a TP plot, okay, so what it will look like? So let us say that this is the initial state, okay, and if you change pressure at 2, so these are the different states that you can get. Okay, mind you that this is not showing the process. This is an isoenthalpy, or I can say that for this dotted curve, the enthalpy is constant. So you can do throttling process and you can get the final stage or any point of this curve. Or let us say I can also, let us say I can start from here and I can end up here, or I can start from, let us say, here, and this is the initial state, this could be final state. This curve shows points of constant enthalpy. Okay, H is equal to constant for this curve. So I can start from any point, I can end. Only condition is that if I start from here, I need to end at a point which has a lower pressure, right? Because pressure has to decrease. So for throttling, we have two conditions. Pressure has to decrease and enthalpy remains constant. So now, because we are following a curve which has constant enthalpy, so this is satisfied. Now only this we have to be careful with. Then we can define any process. So we can start from here, end up here, or we can start from here, end up here. Is this clear?
Yes
sir.
Okay. So now the question is that then how temperature will increase or decrease, or what will decide? Okay. So let us define a Joule-Thomson coefficient. Okay. So which is defined as del T by del P at constant H. So what we see is that for negative Joule-Thomson coefficient, if UJT is less than 0, temperature increases for that process. If it is equal to 0, then temperature remains constant. And if it is more than 0, then temperature decreases. Right? Let us see how it works. So this mu is basically the slope of constant H lines on a TP plot. Okay, so mu is nothing but it is the slope of this line. Okay, now let me draw a line at the center. So this is the maxima. Okay, let us say I draw a line at the this is the maxima. Now let us talk about two parts of this curve. So let us say, show it here. So let us say I have this initial point here. Okay, let us say my final point is f2. Fine. So these are the coordinates. So what has changed for f? Sorry. Okay. So pressure has decreased, right? If you go from 1 to 2, let us say this is 1, this is 2. Okay, so pressure has increased or decreased?
Decrease, sir.
Decrease.
Pressure has to decrease by definition of throttling. So pressure has decreased. Now what about temperature?
Increase.
Temperature has increased, right? Now let us take another point. This is clear to you, everyone, right? When we are going from 1 to 2, the temperature is increasing, right? Now let's say instead of here, I have my initial point here. Okay, let us say this is 1, and let us say this is 2. Okay, now what happens if I go from 1 to 2? Temperature is increasing or decreasing?
Decreasing.
Right? So these are the two regions we define on the left and right side of the maxima. So once you reach till this part, okay, till the left part where the we have okay, what is the slope here? Slope is positive or negative? Slope
Negative.
of negative. So this is negative, temperature is increasing. Here this slope is positive, right? So temperature is decreasing. So we define that as cooling region and heating region. Okay, so if you draw these green lines are basically isoenthalps. Okay, so these are for constant enthalpy curves. So this is for, let us say, H1, H2, H3, H4, different values of enthalpies. Okay, for that you draw a constant enthalpy curve. This is what is shown in green line. Now for that curve you will have a maxima, right? Like we have seen the last slide. So you draw different constant enthalpy curves and connect all the maxima. That is called inversion line. So this is basically okay. So this is basically connecting this maximum point. Okay, where your slope becomes 0. That is your inversion line. So what we say is that if you are on the right side of the inversion line, you are in the heating region. Okay, where your slope is negative. Mu Jt or Joule-Thomson coefficient is negative. So temperature increases and this is in the heating region. Similarly, if you are at left side or where the slope is positive, okay, so there temperature decreases and you are inside the cooling region. So basically, if you take the inversion line, left side is the cooling region, right side is the heating region. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there is something called maximum inversion temperature. Okay, so this is the point where this inversion line touches here, or basically pressure is 0. So, if you want to cool any substance, the temperature of that has to be less than the maximum inversion temperature. Okay, so there is no cooling region above that temperature, right? So, if you want to cool any substance, then the inversion temperature, the temperature of that substance has to, this has to fall in that region, this region, right? So that temperature has to below this. So there are some substances where the temperature is maximum inversion temperature is, let us say, at the room temperature. So they are generally cooled to observe cooling in Joule-Thomson expansion. Okay, and for an ideal gas, Joule-Thomson coefficient is 0. So strictly speaking, for an ideal gas, your temperature should not change while throttling. Okay, it changes for real gas. In real gas, we see that effect, but if all the properties are ideal and the gas is behaving ideally, then temperature change should be 0. Fine. Okay. So for real gas, we can also define DH like this. So DH is 0 for an isothermic process or throttling. So if you rearrange this, you'll get, this is the definition of Joule-Thomson coefficient. Okay, fine. Let us go to TDS equations now. So let us define, or let us assume that this entropy is a function of temperature and volume only. Okay, we will not consider variation in other properties or how they are affecting enthalpy. So with that assumption, I can say that ds is equal to ds by dt. Basically, we are taking partial derivative in terms of temperature and volume. So these are the two independent variables which affect entropy. So ds by dt of dt, where volume is constant, and ds by dv into dv, where keeping temperature constant. Or if you multiply both sides by t, so it becomes TDS is equal to t times of this plus t times of this. Okay. Now this term is actually your CV. If you look carefully, so this will be q dt. dt gets cancelled, so this will and this is taking place at constant volume. Okay, so this will be CV, specific heat at constant volume. Okay, and from Maxwell's third relation, we have this. We have del S by del V at constant temperature is equal to del P by del T at constant volume. So basically, we are talking about this term. Okay, so if I replace this, sorry, we are talking about this term. This is related to that. So for this, I replace this with CV. So we have this, and for this term, if I replace it with using Maxwell's third relation, instead of writing ds by dv, I will write dp by del p by del t. So this is called your first TDS equation. Okay, basically we are using some properties and we are doing some rearrangement, but this is a very important relation used for calculating entropy or by measuring change in other properties. So let us take another assumption. So last slide assumed that entropy is a function of temperature and volume. Now let us assume that for some process or under some condition, entropy is a function of temperature and pressure alone. Okay, so then I can write in a similar fashion. I can write that entropy can be expressed, ds can be expressed as a function of del S by del T and del S by del P. Okay, keeping pressure and temperature as constant. Now similar again, we will multiply by T, so it becomes TDS. TDS is equal to T times of this plus T times of this. So this extra T is here. Now, if you look carefully, okay, there's one small mistake here. It has to be small s. Okay. So if you look closely, this small s, this term can be equated to Cp, and from Maxwell's fourth relation, we see that del S by del P is equal to minus del P by del T. Okay, so this is a direct result from Maxwell's relations. So these two equations will substitute here. So basically, the first term will replace by Cp, and second term will replace by W by del T. So your TDS becomes TDS equal to this is Cp dt minus T times of this, T times of del V by del T at constant pressure into dP. So this is the second TDS equation. Okay. So these are simple derivations based on some assumptions, and that we can use for other calculations. Okay, let us now talk about gas mixtures. So if till now what we have talked about is that if we have one proper single substance, then how to calculate about different properties, change in pressure, temperature, and all. Now let us say we have
Sir, how we have write DH in slide number 24?
24. What you are doing till now 24 you are asking? Nothing on 24. This slide you are
23.
अभी तक तुम सो रहे थे, क्या कर रहे थे? TDS.
सर मैंने सोचा लास्ट में पूछूं.
Hey, don't do that. This one.
Yes sir.
So this is इसका I will not go into the detailed derivation. If you want, I can give you later. Basically, this is how you define UGT. That's all. Okay, इसमें you don't have to think a lot about it. This is how you define UGT, and important point is that for ideal gas, this is 0. Okay.
Okay sir.
इसमें will not go into derivation. We just will define. That is how it looks like. Fine. So any doubt, if you have, just ask there and there. Don't wait for me to move on. Okay, so TDS we have done. Let us talk about gas mixtures. So first is Dalton's law of additive pressure. Okay, so if we have a mixture of gases, and if I want to calculate what is the total pressure exerted by that mixture, so Dalton's law say that the total pressure will be equal to sum of the pressure of each gas. Okay, that it will exert if that particular gas is alone. Okay, at the mixture temperature and volume. So, or in equation form, I can write that this is the, let us say, total pressure, which will be equal to sum of individual pressures. So I is for each gas. So let us say we have two gases, A and B. So total pressure exerted by both the gases coming together or a mixture is sum of these two pressures, provided that you are taking pressure at the same temperature and volume. Okay, so let us say this is at room temperature and some volume is occupied, and this is let us say that gas A is some gas, let us say nitrogen, at room temperature and pressure. Similarly, this is at room temperature and pressure, let us say oxygen. So if you combine these two in the same volume, okay, volume, let us say volume remains constant. So what will happen to the pressure? Will it be atmospheric or what? Yes. The answer is actually written on this slide only. So I will repeat the question. Yeah, anyone wants to answer?
What's the question?
So question is that let us say I have gases nitrogen. I have nitrogen at atmospheric temperature and pressure. Okay, let us say room temperature 30 degrees Celsius, 1 atmospheric pressure. That is for nitrogen. And this is, let us say, some volume. Let us say 1 liter. Okay, so I am saying this to be 1 liter or 1 meter cube, whatever you want. This will be, let us say, 30 degrees Celsius. This is, let us say, 1 atmosphere. This is gas A, let us say nitrogen. Okay. Now gas B, let us say that this is oxygen. Any gas you can take. I'm just taking some example. Volume is, let us say, again 1 meter cube, and temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. This is also atmospheric pressure. 1 atmosphere. So if I take these two gases and I fill them in another container which is also of the same volume. Okay, let us say this is 1 meter cube at room temperature. So what will be the pressure of this mixture?
It
Two
will
eighty.
add simply.
It will add, so
280.
1 plus 2. So if I want to maintain 1 atmosphere, then I'll do what I'll do. I'll give a bigger box which has 2V, right? But limiting ourselves to Dalton's law, so it says that if you maintain the same volume and temperature, then you simply need to add the pressure. You take the individual component, you take the pressure of this and pressure of this and just add. That's all. This is what Dalton's law of additive pressure says. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes.
This is confusing. Okay. So V and T remain constant. That is what our inherent condition is. Okay, let us talk about Amigat's law of additive volume. So it says that sum of so if you have a gas mixture and you want to find the total volume of that mixture, so that total volume will be equal to sum of each volume. Okay, volume of each gas if that particular gas is existing alone at mixture temperature and pressure. So basically it says that you take volume for different gases and add, that will give you total volume of the mixture. Or let us say we have two gases at different different volumes but same pressure and temperature. That is important. So let us say nitrogen at atmospheric temperature and pressure, oxygen at atmospheric pressure and temperature. Now if I want to maintain the same pressure and temperature, what I need to do is I need to keep the volume of the mixture to be equal to sum of these two. Right? So if we have three components, we'll take a box which has sum of all the three volumes. This is very coming from logical observation. There's nothing complicated here. It is saying two gases, if you want to mix, keep a volume which is equal to the sum of individual component. That's all. And pressure and temperature will remain constant for this particular law. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, similar way we can calculate extensive properties of the mixture by taking a mass weighted average. So you can say that, for example, internal energy for a mixture, I can simply add all the internal energies for different components. It could be mass of m1 u1 plus m2 u2 like that, or you can say either you can take u in terms of mass, or let us say in terms of number of moles. So when you define u in terms of number of moles, multiply by n, which is number of moles. Similarly, we can talk, that's what I told. Either you can take in mass basis or molar basis. So in similar fashion, we can also define a mixture enthalpy and entropy of the mixture. So that will be the sum of individual component. So if you have 10 components, just add all the enthalpy together. That will be the enthalpy of your mixture. So you can either take on mass basis or mole basis. Similarly for entropy. So with that, we come an end to this chapter. Stop recording.